Richard, how impressed were you by what had been achieved with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and what was your reaction on being asked to join the adventures of the Hobbit?
I was a big fan of the Lord of the Rings book, and I remember being very disappointed when the animation that was made in the late 80s was unfinished, and being so frustrated that this story wasn't going to be told, and hunting everywhere for the rest of it. So when Peter's trilogy hit the cinemas, I think I watched each movie 2 or 3 times and immersed myself in Middle-earth, and I really felt that he defined Middle-earth for me and for so many readers. It was exactly what they had imagined. So the chance to go and work as Thorin Oakenshield on The Hobbit and be part of Peter's ideas again was really thrilling, yeah.
And how would you describe Thorin's place among his fellow dwarves when we sort of first meet him in the film at Bilbo's Hobbit hole?
Well, he arrives late. He comes late to the party, which I think was an addition that Peter and Fran and Philippa decided on. And he comes into Bag End with a weight on his shoulders that taking his 13 men on this quest with him is going to be an ordeal, and he can't impress on them how serious it is. And then he's asked to bring along this hobbit, this soft hobbit that only knows hearth and home and isn't a fighter, isn't a warrior, and could quite possibly be a liability. So they don't start in a particularly good place. I mean, they start with fractured ice under their feet.
As you say, Thorin's not hugely excited about the prospect of having Bilbo on board, but what about working with Martin Freeman yourself?
I think Martin is the definitive Bilbo Baggins. I think Peter's choice was first rate. I mean, his comic timing is one thing, but he has something inside of him which is so kind of quintessentially English, and he defines warmth and hearth and home, and bringing that to Bilbo Baggins is an absolute inspiration. I
believe Thorin means a darer in Dwarvish. What extent did you sort of all feel like you were embarking on quite a daring mission in taking on the Hobbit?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and interestingly enough, I think his father was also known as Trier, and Thorin is the one that dares to do it. But yeah, it was pretty daring and scary at times. No one really knew whether we were going to be able to achieve what Peter envisaged for the dwarves, you know. So the whole thing was rather an experiment, and becoming a dwarf was fascinating, and there were so many pieces to making that happen. And finally seeing the movie and seeing it finished and realizing that he knew from the very beginning that what he was doing was right was really exciting.
And what did you make of seeing it in the high frame rate 3D? Can you give us an idea of your reaction when you first saw it?
I've seen it 3 times now, and each time I've had a completely different reaction to it, and I've seen something new every time. And I think the detail and the depth of field, which is so sharp, is thrilling. It's like nothing I've seen before, and actually it's like Peter puts his hands out of the screen and grabs you and forces you to watch, rather than you sitting back and just letting the film wash over you.
They're quite musical beings, obviously, the dwarves, aren't they? How much did you enjoy taking on the quite haunting Misty Mountain song?
It's one thing I love about Tolkien is the way that he peppers those songs throughout his literature. So I was really pleased that they were going to embrace at least one of the songs, and the fact that they chose the dwarf song as a very kind of solemn, reverential, sacred song which described claiming back their home was really important as part of the preparation. And actually I used the song, I sort of hummed the tune to myself when I was walking around set. It became like a mantra, so it was a real privilege to record that and use it in the film.
Did you learn any ancient Dwarvish or any of the other Middle East Earth languages that you can share with us?
Yeah, one of my favourite lines is Imri Damra Dorsul, which Thorin often says to an elf. So you can guess what that means.
A little bit disparaging, I imagine.
It's pretty disparaging, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously I think quite high on a lot of children of all ages, their Christmas wish list is going to be some of the action figures. What was it like seeing yourself sort of rendered in plastic as an action figure?
It isn't the first time I've been a plastic action figure, but this one's particularly good. Yeah, I'm glad he's got his little arsenal of weapons as well, because I think they'll come in useful for little play fights. I wouldn't mind one myself, actually.
Richard Armitage, thanks very much.
Thank you.